Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now getting very much closer to the end of The Mandalorian Season 3, and with the latest chapter really setting a lot of things up with Moff Gideon and the Shadow Council. We have a lot of things coming our way for Season 4. It's just unfortunate that we have seen a mixed bag when it comes to fan reactions and fan reception for Season 3. We have seen a lot of fans are disliking this installment, some fans are liking this installment. It really seems to be all mixed together. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, given that Disney is trying to turn things around for Star Wars and really mainly focusing on the movies again, given that we are going to get 3 other Star Wars movie announcements at this year's D23 event, which are reportedly said to actually revolve around the old Republic era, on top of the ones that we already have gotten announced, such as the Dave Filoni movie, the Rey film, and Dawn of the Jedi. Now, of course, we have a lot of things happening besides that, such as Ahsoka Season 2, Mando Season 4, as well as a handful of other Star Wars shows that are going to be announced at D23 later this year. Now, what Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, recently had to say about the future of the franchise and where it's heading, and exactly how they are going to accomplish many of their specific goals to the future of the franchise and how they're going to revive Star Wars Legends is very interesting. So let's tap right into all of this. Now, given that Bob Iger has been really much, intact with the fans, really getting very direct with the fandom, telling them about their goals and their ambitions with Star Wars, they've been talking more about John and Dave's work. The Disney executives are still, unfortunately, currently in a shakeup, which is not going well, but I digress. With Disney and Lucasfilm now beginning to develop multiple projects such as films and shows that will be announced at D23 further, recently Disney CEO Bob Iger took part in many interviews where he seemingly confirmed the reset of the Skywalker Saga and retcons toward the sequels in different areas to allow John and Dave to have the creative freedom that they need. Bob Iger stated the following to the fans: "One thing I have learned is that John and Dave repeatedly found themselves hitting some obstacles when it came to developing their direction of bringing back Legends, or what many fans like to call it, the old expanded universe. We need to have this conversation and how we could create a remedy, and a big part of that had a lot to do with using a special tool in one of our upcoming shows that will allow John and Dave to bend the events in the Skywalker Saga timeline, and how this is going to create a big impact on the storytelling of the sequel lore, and how they bring Legends back to the table. We sat down with George and we sat down with John and Dave about this approach, and it was a necessary step to fulfill the fans' needs and our needs to develop the right story to cater to the fans that really supported this franchise from the beginning." Now, let me just stop right here for 1 second. Now, we know that Mark Hamill the other day directly confirmed a lot of retcons happening toward the Skywalker Saga, including the sequel trilogy films, and how this was a very important step for John and Dave to hold the creative freedom that they needed. And Bob Iger's saying a very similar thing right here, the fact that John and Dave needed to hit less obstacles, less brick walls, because of all of the sequel trilogy canon that kind of somewhat prevents aspects of Legends entering into the franchise. And so they're breaking down elements of the sequel trilogy movies. This is not to say that the sequel trilogy movies are getting erased completely. That's never going to happen. Let's just be real here. But what they are doing is that they are erasing and retconning and resetting elements of the sequels, parts of the sequel trilogy lore, or what's official Star Wars throughout the Skywalker Saga as well, is going to be flip-flopped essentially to allow John and Dave to bring the Legends stories back the way that they need to tell their actual vision. And so Bob Iger is allowing this, and you know what? As much as I show and have shown a lot of criticism against Bob, I always give him credit for allowing John and Dave to do what is necessary to bring Star Wars back in action, to really bring it back to the way that it used to be. And basically this is an ongoing struggle for Disney. They want to try and attempt to really regain the fans that they lost, after the sequel trilogy came to a close, after Gina Carano got fired, and a lot of other areas that really shifted a lot of fans away from the franchise, right? So, on to the next thing here, but what Bob Iger had to say is pretty crucial as to exactly what Jon and Dave are about to do. So he goes on to elaborate further. They are working hard every single day on how legend stories will be extremely prominent in all our upcoming shows and movies for the most part, and the much needed changes that we had to make toward the sequel trilogy installments as a sacrifice to allow Jon and Dave to hold the creative freedom that they needed. Fans will be learning about exactly how we are going to accomplish this in the coming months, and though I will admit this is going to be a very difficult task, we feel it's a necessary step to ensuring that we can tell whatever stories and when we want to in the timeline to better fit the fans that grew up with these tales by George and other creators over the years. Now guys, obviously Bob Iger is referring to the world between worlds. This is the quote-unquote tool that is allowing them to change the events of the Skywalker Saga, to change specific canon pieces in the sequel trilogy movie. Again, I have to say this again, this does not mean that they're erasing 7, 8, and 9 in total, but they're erasing parts of those stories. Parts of the characters' backstories and meaning of specific scenarios. Stuff like that will be shifted around. Now, the thing about this too, about the WBW, alright, is it's a very unique tool. It's not time travel in the traditional sense like Back to the Future or anything like that. Dave Filoni created his very own vision of the world between worlds and how it's going to have a series of rules and basically boundaries of what you can and cannot do in this realm. A lot of which is going to be teased in the first season of Ahsoka, and then the WBW is going to be a main thing, big time, in the second season of Ahsoka. So basically, it's going to be an ongoing theme for the Ahsoka series to deal with this realm of what we actually first saw in Star Wars Rebels Season 4 with Ezra Bridger when he saved Ahsoka Tano from getting killed off by Darth Vader. You know, if you think about that, Ezra Bridger literally changed the course of history for all we know. If Ahsoka died, everything would have been different. There would have been a big ripple effect, right? For example, you wouldn't have Ahsoka talking with Luke, you wouldn't have those events happening, but because of Ezra Bridger saving her, those events did happen. It's stuff like that that's going to be done in the WBW. A ripple effect, so to speak. The butterfly effect, a lot of people have different words for it, But anyways, it's really interesting that they are pursuing this, and they're very persistent with this, because they know that the fans want change. They know that the fans are not standing for Kathleen Kennedy's vision of Star Wars and how the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew are shifting away from George Lucas's vision, in which they are, by the way. Kennedy did confirm that, and Bob wants to make sure that anything outgoing is going to be catering to the hardcore fan base. So, anyways, guys, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon.